What up, PyroDrake here. So, I just finished a tool-assisted speedrun, or TAS, of Bonk's Adventure for the PC Engine, or as it's known here in the US, the TurboGrafx-16. If you're not familiar with TAS, basically it's adjusting every input frame by frame for the best possible completion time. Not too many people TAS Bonk's Adventure, and I really just wanted to teach myself the basics. This glitchless run, also known as any % no glitch, was compiled from scratch with no outside assistance, save the emulator, BizHawk. See the description for further notes. Anywho, let's begin. So if you don't know, Bonk's Adventure stars Bonk, a caveman with an unusually large and sturdy head. He was pretty much the mascot for the TurboGrafx. Honestly, this is a highly underrated platformer and was actually published by Atlas. If you don't already know, Atlas is known for some great games, and in my opinion, this is another one. So the majority of this commentary is going to be unscripted. If I ramble, sorry. And finally, before we start, there's just a couple last things I wanted to mention. First, the flowers. They all have an interesting property. They can get hit from either side, which acts as a spring bouncing Bonk backwards at high speed. Jumping while being bounced back can send Bonk flying. One great thing about this game that assists with speedrunning is that Bonk keeps his horizontal speed so long as he doesn't touch the ground. Also, Bonk can spin in midair by throwing his head forward. For each spin, Bonk descends from his altitude at a slightly slower rate. Once flung in one direction, we try to keep Bonk airborne as much as possible. Another thing about this game, or more specifically, the game console itself, is turbo functionality is included on every TurboGrafx-16 controller. This can be set to slow turbo, fast turbo, or off. While compiling this video, one thing I found out is the turbo included on the controller actually doesn't hit the button as fast as we can in a TAS. This game runs at 60 frames per second, and I have it set to hit the spin attack button every other frame, or 30 times every second. And finally, there are a couple times that I get damaged throughout this run. For the most part, these are intentional to save time. Other times I had an issue getting the random number generator, or RNG, to play nice, and it was simpler just to get hit rather than find a way around. And now, with all that out of the way, I bring you Bonk's Adventure. Alright, so right off the bat, there's a secret just to the left of the spawn point. Hitting the ground with your head reveals a small flower. Revealing this spawns another flower that Bonk can jump on for a power-up. I believe that one contained an extra life, but Bonk don't care about that. This is the first example of a flower propelling Bonk forward, and even as I speak, we already see it, 3 more times here? And there was one of my intentional damage boosts to go through that other alligator there. And yes, that's actually their name, Alligator. Going on to 1-2. So, one thing about this game is every time Bonk lands on the ground, it slows him down slightly. So, another thing that we try to do is to not land as much as possible. Now here is a Super Meat power-up. It takes a long time for the power-up to adjust, but it gives Bonk great speed. The fact that this meat power-up was in the beginning of the level basically gives us more time to use it throughout the level. And the time wasted grabbing it justifies that. Now this level, I actually had a completely different strat going into this originally. Something happened, it didn't work, and I couldn't get it just right, so this section is a little bit sloppy. And then we just get into the dinosaur's mouth, and here we are. So these uvula things will damage, and they actually hurt Bonk quite a lot. I believe they take away almost a full heart. So, coming up here, you're going to see them in the middle of the path. Now, one thing I'm doing is I'm getting damaged by these little spermy things. They actually don't do nearly any damage at all, but it gives me enough iframes, or invincibility frames, to just go right through those uvula things. Not to mention we collect our heart right there anyways. And now we just enter the elevator, going down. And thus we get to our first boss battle, Huey. Now, I love this guy. Unfortunately, we just kind of destroy him here. He's so doofy looking. I love it. Gee whiz. Thanks. I feel a lot better. I'm your new friend. Arf, arf, arf. I love the tail wagging behind it too. It's just great little details like this. Now at the end of the stage, it counts how many little smiley faces that you've collected. I'm trying to collect as few as possible just because it takes extra time to count them at the end of the level. Here we're introduced to these glasses-wearing dinosaurs and the cacti. Now the cacti here cannot get hurt at all. Now there you just saw me pass through one of the dinosaur guys. That's not a glitch. What happens is you have some invincibility frames every time you hit one of the flowers, and that's what propels you forward. I love that little part there, that killing those two guys. So you might have noticed what a bad guy with pink. He actually will drop meat. He only drops a small piece of meat, so it's not worth it to stop to pick that up. And yes, there I do collect some more smiley faces, but it's worth the time just not to have to walk. And here we go. And again, all we're doing here is just trying to keep in the air as much as possible. There was another, example of the flower bounce. And also, Bonk can climb up only, I think it's like 3 walls in the game. So really, there's not much to mention about those. You just keep hitting the jump button until you make it up the wall. Now, this one I had to redo about 3 or 4 times. It just was not syncing up no matter how hard I tried. I do know there's a more efficient way through this level. I just didn't have the patience to deal with it. I had to redo this one actually, I think about 4 times. It was just driving me nuts. Onward to 2-4. And here, again, the second enemy right at the beginning of the level makes it a lot better, or at least a lot faster to grab that. And then we just use the speed boost we get from that to get as far as we can. And when we start losing our speed, we just hit another couple of radishes there. Now, the only reason I kept that in, I know I lose a lot of speed, but it's just so cool to see that tree floating in midair like that. One thing I forgot to mention is if you're powered up, even by one small piece of meat, then anytime you headbutt the ground, it will freeze all enemies on the screen. Onward to 2-5. Now, this is another one I had some issues with. If you don't have enough room to jump after you hit a flower, it gets really tricky. You have about a 2-frame window to actually jump before the edge of a smaller platform, like this one. But again, we're just doing the same thing. Yes, the sound gets annoying. Now, that little fling off of the vine there, I didn't know you could do that until afterwards, so otherwise I might have done that instead, just to give myself additional speed. There's another level that's all vertical and all climbing. I'm 90% sure there's a faster route through this entire section, but I was having another hard time with this one, so I did the route that I actually know. So anytime you hear that sound, that's one of the bad guys dying. Some guys take more than 1 hit to kill, so that's why you have that. I honestly don't know how I missed that bug there. I really don't. Now, on the lower left of the screen, you can see the little hatchet there. It's just kind of minding its own business. We're just escorting that to the end of the level. I know I could probably drop down and speed things up here a little bit, but it's just so funny to see that hatchet just going along. Bye, hatchet! Alright, it's boss number 2. This guy, I had a major issue with. What he does is he splits himself in two, and only one out of the two can actually take damage. The problem I was running into is it was changing every time I tried to compile this game. But as you can see, I got through it. Now, one thing that you may have noticed is about 3 or 4 of the hits happened off screen. The issue with that is you're never quite sure where Bonk is relative to the bad guy, and there's, I want to say it's a 10 to 15 frame adjustment you need to make after landing one hit before you can spin to make another hit. Trying to get that done without actually seeing Bonk is very difficult. I should also mention that when I initially did this, I did not have any sound whatsoever, so I couldn't hear the game at all. I was just hoping that nothing was messed up audibly. As I'm playing it back now, though, I do have sound, so I can hear it as well as see it. So, one thing that you notice there, too, is I hit one guy twice. Now, if you hit a bad guy all the way on the left-hand side, it's going to fly right. If you do it far enough to the left, what'll happen is it'll give you a chance to spin and hit him again before you actually fall. Now here, that seemed like a very easy level. This is actually a warp. This skips several levels. Brings us all the way to 3-5. So that flower there, I didn't want to attempt one of the bouncy things. The ice cube here goes almost as fast, but I didn't have a way to bounce on that flower and have enough room to jump. That one I had no platform to the right of it, so again, riding the ice cube is a lot faster in these instances. And there we go. I purposely jumped on that flower so that way I can give myself enough room. Right there is another intentional damage. Those lightning clouds usually strike a couple seconds after they appear on screen. There was no way I was able to get beyond it or through them without taking damage. Another boss that gave me some issues initially. His hitbox is kind of weird. His arms, while they're up, can hit you, but sometimes when the left arm is up, the right arm can still hit you. It's weird. What I'm doing here is quick spins while he's coming up, so I hit him again. Basically what's happening is the game thinks that Bonk is faced down, so if he's face down, the enemy is slightly below him, it's going to have me bonk him instead of giving damage to myself. Come to think of it, I am a monkey. Have you seen Princess Za? Begin for a round. I absolutely love the music in these stages. The boss music is great. So there's no flowers at the beginning of the stage at all, and we really have no way to propel ourselves, so we just kind of do, you know, normal spins as we go. And so we get to here. And now we can finally proceed at a decent pace. So now here, I do take extra time. It slows down hitting that and jumping up. But I had no way to get between the flower and the cactuses in order to bounce myself further. Not without taking a decent amount of damage anyways. Now, the next flower was not too far after, so it just made more sense to continue on. And we are at another boss. This is another one I kind of feel bad for, because I really don't even get him a second. He's supposed to punch, and eventually his gloves will, you know, fly at you. But, yeah, we don't even give him a chance. You really rang my bell on that one. It feels great to be up here in the light. Now I can find my beloved princess. And that was it for round 4. Begin the 5th round. This one is the final world of the game. And so now we have another vertically scrolling level. Makes no sense to bounce off the flowers, considering I just need to go straight up. So one good thing with Bonk 2 is if there's an enemy above you, so long as he doesn't have, you know, an axe or something that can damage you, you can actually jump up and hit them with your head straight up too. So the first 2 flowers, if I tried to do the flower bounce trick, would actually lose speed because I end up knocking myself into the other flowers. And it's just a lot better to fly through the level. So now this runs on a what's called a universal cycle. Basically, the same cycle no matter what from the time you turn on the game console. I didn't know that at first. But now right here there's an entire level. What you're supposed to do is spawn on the left side and go down and around. The developers apparently messed up and left a gap at the top. If you enter the level while spinning, you can actually make it over the top gap. So another thing I'm doing here is, after most of my bounces, I am doing I'm actually giving it a few frames to let Bonk raise up. Now, the issue that we're running into with that here is the ceiling. If Bonk hits the ceiling, it actually decreases his speed drastically. So I actually try to spin before reaching the ceiling, even if it's going to cost me additional height. I would rather not hit the ceiling and slow down. There's another weird section that I can probably make a little bit faster. And that's because of this section coming up here. Oh wait, yes. So the reason I didn't hit that flower there is that skull dog, I guess, was in the way, and I'd actually have to hit twice in order to bounce me backwards. And that cost additional time that I wanted to save. Again, that was an intentional damage just to get me over through him. Bouncing backwards through that guy. Now, I assure you, in between every hit there, I was hitting the button to spin downward. Here we have another vertically scrolling stage, which takes forever to get through. I have no clue what those things are, but whatever they deposit is just, it's kind of adorable. Okay. Yeah, there's really nothing I can say. It's literally, I like that there, that I used that guy to give myself an extra, you know, couple inches to get up there. So there is a secret to the right. That takes me to a bonus room. That's the last thing I need. I would just waste more time. And speaking of wasting time, here is the biggest time waster of the game. We literally have to walk through 4 chambers of the guys that we just beat without fighting them. They're all frozen. I don't know why they didn't just put them all in one room for now, because we do have to, you know, face them later on and then put them in the rooms, but hey, whatever. Doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. I think it's right there. If you jump into those blocks, there's actually some secrets there, but again, it just takes too much time. Like I said, every time you land, it takes a few extra seconds for Bonk to resume his speed. Here we go, another vertically scrolling level. Now every time Bonk is in the waterfall, constantly tapping the jump button is what makes him, you know, ascend. Really not too much to say here. Just a couple things living in the water I get to kill. Trying to be as efficient as possible. That's about it. Here we see our main antagonist dropping eggs. Luckily, this isn't a huge ascending level. It just gets us right into here, where we fall back down into the same exact spot. But now... now we get to do the entire rebattles. And this poor guy just doesn't catch a break. Again, I don't have too much to say here. It's just literally rebattling the same guys. So another issue that I ran into is this one here randomly picks which one's going to be real. The first time I was making the tool-assisted run, he was not actually... When I went to go play it back, he wasn't actually consistently on the same side as he was when I was first recording it. So it ended up taking me a lot of extra time figuring out why. Never did, I just redid the entire section. And this guy again. Again, we don't want to land on the ground. It takes additional time to get moving again, so long as we stay in the air. And there's a couple different tricks I'm using here to hit him on my way up again. That way I'm hitting him on his way up, and then on my way back down from hitting him. Or I'm sorry, my way back up from hitting him. And finally... Again, I just feel so bad for this guy. Later. And down this time. I know there's additional power-ups in that wall, too. And that is supposed to be the Princess Za under brain control. The way this fight actually worked out was amazing. I've even playing the game normally or with the tool-assisted run, I've never seen that guy go down that quick. That was an amazing thing. There's definitely several places early in the run that I can save a few seconds here and there. I could probably save roughly about 4 or 5 minutes overall. But in doing so, it's going to randomize where the bad guys appear, you know, whether it's the left or the right one that's the one that I have to hit. And it also affects that fight there based on what attacks he's going to pull out, what attacks he's going to use, if he's going to go left or right, if he's going to jump up or stay on the ground. All that's random. It just so happened that his upward momentum during that fight gave Bonk enough chance to hit him consistently as both of them were raising up. You jerk. You broke our little skull thingy. Sick of that sound yet? I know I am. And here we go. So this guy starts off as a phantom thing. I have to hit him 6 times? 8 times, I think? Something like that. Before he turns corporeal. And this one I had some pretty good luck with, because again, I keep hitting him while he's up there. And I managed to get all the hits in before all those hits in before his first disappear, which means I was able to defeat him on the second round. And that is game. About 24 minutes. And, yeah, Bonk's adventure. Back on Moonland. Princess Za. Love is in the air. I really do not want to see what that bedroom is going to be like. I get to go back to Moonland. Arf, arf, arf. He's so doofy. Thank you so much. You set me free. I want to go back to the banana farm in Moonland. I don't know why, to me he's just got a really gruff voice. Thanks for saving Princess Za. Even the bottom side of the moon is happy. Yeah, seriously, I'm curious, but not curious enough to wonder what that bedroom would look like. So, there you have it. Bonk's adventure. Alligator, Stu Stinger. So, it's just going to go through the credits here. One thing about this game is there's no credits for who created the game. This is one of those old school games where they didn't give the developers any credit whatsoever. They only apparently just give us what the bad guys' names are. Alright, so with that out of the way, I may go back and readjust some things here and there, trying to get it to, you know, a world record type pace, but we'll see. If you want, you can do all those YouTube thingies that people say, you know, like, share, subscribe, comment, bell, firstborn child, pint of blood, you know, all that. And, yeah, I'll catch you next time. Peace.